Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Stat Me Up for Anfield Index. It's been a strange week, hasn't it, in a way? We had Fulham, 10 men, 2-2, loads happening, so we'll debrief the stats on that. We won't really talk too much of the Carabao because we know that's not the main thing for people, but what we will do is look at what is set to be a potentially crazy game at the Tottenham Stadium on Sunday. So we'll break down the stats and what we think is happening from there. He's back in England, so he's probably not enjoying the weather too much here, I bet. Bart's, it ain't Mauritius, is it?
No, mate, it's a bit, it's a bit cold, but it is what it is. I suppose we're back for holidays and the rest of it. So yeah, you can't beat that.
Festive time of year, and all that. So we'll do the normal people. We'll talk through the stats, and there's only one place to start. And I mean, I was at this game, Bart, the Fulham game. I mean, utter incident. Just trying to summarise this game from nearly a good start, but being 1-0 down after 10 minutes, being one man down 17 minutes, obviously down at the half, 2-2 by full time, and probably even like leaving in the second half thinking we could have won that even with 10 men. I mean, I genuinely have no idea where you're going to start with this in analysis and stats. So I'm probably just throwing a load of gun over to you for this one. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I wasn't on UP at the beginning of the week because I was travelling, but just to give you my little look through where we are, I think top line stats are kind of fairly not redundant, but I think when you lose a man and you play for a game with 80 minutes, you have to look at it in
Yeah.
different ways. So top line, we can all know that, but even the half split doesn't really tell a story. The bit that you want to turn to in the stats pack, which would have gone out with a pod as well, and will go out, it's on the socials anyway from here, is where you break it down by 15-minute segments. So if you look at the first 15 minutes, which Fulham score, we have 11 v 11. Arsenal love an 11 v 11 stat, right? We, to be fair, 0.11 to 0.04 xg. It's not amazing to write home about. Threat wise, they're converting at a higher rate than we are. Penalty box touches, we've got more in their box than they had in ours. And field tilt, again, we were showing more dominance in their final third. Field tilt, remember, is the possession split between the final thirds of each to whoever's attacking. So we had nearly 70% of that possession in the final ends. So, but it wasn't, I think it's fair to say, apart from the goal, not a lot had started to happen. I think that's probably a fair assessment in that first 15. The next 15 is where stuff happens, and that is where Robbo gets sent off. And we then go through a period of, rightly, I think, as it turned out, Slot trusting his players, but wanting to find the solution with those on the pitch. But in doing so, Fulham cranked up their XG went to 0.24. We didn't produce anything because we're trying to work out which piece is going to fit in where and how we're going to play. Their threat goes to over nearly 200% from what they had. So, and penalty to box touches, they had 3 to our 1s. It's one of the only times they had more in our penalty box than we had in theirs. Field tilt, though, goes to about 50-50. And pass rate, we are very safe in this period. Nearly 94% is us trying to work stuff out. And when we have got the ball, just try and keep it so we can keep players moving around in the right place. Then I think it's fair to say from 31 to 45, I think we're in the second kind of slot tweak, if you like. He's just worked someone else out. I think at this point, he decided Gomez was going to go and play left side, not right side, and it shifted things around. And we start to create XG. So we go up to 0.49 in that 15-minute period. Our threat conversion still not great. So that's showing you we actually had more threat and we weren't utilising it very well. So again, the system wasn't quite tweaked correctly. Penalty box touches, we're back up dominating that 8-3. Field tilt, we're nearly at 81 to nearly 80-20 split. So this is where we've just before half time. I would suggest, and also the eye test probably told me that as well, is that we'd kind of figured how we were going to work it out. and we're starting to crank that up a little bit to try and create some chances. Big chances. We also created a big chance in that period of time. So then if you look at second half, again, as we generally go through, I won't go for each individual one. We have a threat conversion there for just after half time at 150%, which is always kind of our benchmark of a good area. And we score in that period of time. So obviously that's the Gakpo header. Pass rate is low, but then that's us taking a few more risks. And Phil Tilt, we're letting them have it. We lose that battle there for the first time, but we still win the penalty box touches. Then they go and score on the counter to make it 2-1. And that's the only period of the game where we don't dominate the stats from there on in. So again, you'll see here our passing goes back up to 90. So maybe we went to being a bit safe, scored, got level, and then trying to reassess a little bit. But then for the last, remember we played nearly 100 minutes this game because we had 9 injury minutes as well. So we played 76 all the way through to 100. We had nearly 95 field tilt, 86 field tilt, penalty box touches 11-1, 8-0, XG at 0.45, 0.43. So we dominate in the XG, threat conversion at nearly 140, 180. We are going for this. So we do score a goal. And I personally, I think I said to you after the game, how do you feel? You can't not praise the boys for doing what they did for 80 minutes with 10 men. You can't, right? Getting a point from that situation and to go behind and get twice in a game, that's full well. But I think particularly if you look at some of the sequences in injury time, I think you can, maybe it's hypercritical, but I think we could have just a better pass here or there or a better shot. We win that game 3-2, and it's a whole different complexion. But having said that, man down, playing, actually given the injury time, nearly 90 minutes, a man down against a very dangerous Fulham side, we said on the last pod. I think overall that's probably not a bad thing to suggest. If we look at the Monte Carlos, we actually edged it. We should have won the game 2-1, 12% in 10,000 sims. So that suggests that the breakaway goal they had, which I think at the time we all kind of can say there's several areas that we should have dealt with. That second goal for them shouldn't have happened, right? And then there's opportunities that we probably should have taken better at 1-1 to make that 2-1, if that makes sense. So, and then Monte Carlo in 10,000 sims has got us at 60% win rate, Fulham at 18, and a draw at 22. So you could see how on the one side of it, I'm like, yeah, they did really well. Like 10v11's tough. But the other hand of it, the data kind of suggests that we did have the opportunities to just nick the 3 points. Pass maps, I think it's always interesting to, again, you have to look at context and some of the stuff that no point looking at halves. So it's better to look at red cards of subs. And you'll see here, this is where we jigged it basically to a 3 and a 3, and then you had a floater to make it a 3 up front. So it was like a 3 banks of 3. There's a lot more layers on that, but because we're not going too deep with this one. So you can see how we tweaked it to do that. We have players joining into midfield to make that a 3, and then the forward still gets high. We still tried to do the whole go out left, come back right, but just tweaked it a little bit differently. Some of the things that I found interesting to this one here we sometimes talk about, which is our long ball rate. So first half, you'll see here we were switching it progressively, which is good, which means we're moving the ball over 20% close to goal, and in the final third and in the final 2/3. So that's what we're doing here, and we're going in wide. Whereas second half, you could see we're a bit more balanced in what we're doing. We've gone back to using the right side a lot with our long passes, and the switches are coming higher up. So that's a little bit different for us. For them, the impact on them, because we often talk about systems and how we impact each way player play, how each team plays. First off, you can see Fulham did that's fairly normal for them. They'll hit the wings. You can see what they're doing. Here, we've forced them back, so their left wing becomes non-existent. and their right wing, they're having to go down the right wing in terms of long ball rate. So that we forced them to change an approach in the second half, which is no mean feat when you're a man down, right? To impose yourself on an opposition system to the extent they have to change is quite something. Something new that I wouldn't have done on cause first time I've run this kind of pod. I started to look at what happens when we win a defensive action. Now, we said defensive action before, a DA, which is a header, an area or tackle, or interception. So here what you can see, particularly in the first half, is when we win it, we are generally sticking to what we're trying to do. Okay, so we win it and then we're trying to play it forward, or we've got some crosses in the first half. Second half, we shorten up a little bit when we win it to try and secure possession, and then we got some crossfields, but there's not the massive arrows when we try and win it. Yeah. So again, we've been a bit more assured when we win that to then go and try and attack again. Whereas you look at Fulham, first half, fairly good mix, but again, a medium length pass, should we say. Second half, they're winning it, and then we have forced them to try and play that ball down the right, their right hand side, attacking our right back, if you like. So yeah, it's a very weird game to analyse purely because it did the red card. And I think there's periods where, if we look at where's the XG chart. So again, here on the XG, you'll see we kind of flatline, then we go up we go up quite steeply, then we flatline, then we increase again towards the end of the game. Whereas if we look at Fulham, they're largely, to be frank, they don't go above point. It's they score and then they don't really do a lot, and then they score again and do nothing. So yeah, I think if you ask me who would be the happier of the two sides going away, I would probably say Fulham would be. They come to Anfield and got a point. That's probably. I think they might even be slightly disappointed. They got us down to 10 men and didn't go away with all three. You know, that's something you don't normally see. Whereas I think, yeah, we're going to be happy we didn't get beat. Clearly, we got a point when a lot of the odds were stacked against us. But I just think in some of the chances we created that last 20 minutes, should we say, yeah, on another day. If you run it on 10,000, we generally score again and we probably win that game. So yeah, it's one of those. It's unfortunate that it's come on the back of another game where I think we threw away 2 points in the last 9 seconds. So we've gone from we didn't have a winning position in front of them, but I think we had opportunities to get the win. And Newcastle, we definitely had a winning position. So it's 4 points for me that quite easily could have gone our way. Yeah.
Do you know what? I wondered how you were going to analyse that, Bart, and I like the way you did it, actually, because it does, when you think back on the eye test, it was good to break it down into those sort of 15-minute periods because, like you said, not too much happening at the start. The goal and the red card in a short period changes the game. Slot, to his credit, I think a few put there, like Avo third in the comments, a lot of tactical adjustments at different times, which actually did really well and sort of built almost mini crescendos, I'd say, little periods where we were dominant and we were on top. Like you said, probably the killer in the game is the second goal, because it's a poor goal to concede, really, for a number of reasons. And we're on top at that period as well. Then at the same time, it's a great comeback. It's Jota's second. We're on top. And then probably like you, I don't know if you're the same as me, you don't want to be disappointed. I just can't get that bit out my head in the second half where you're just waiting for Luis Diaz to just square it to Mo Salah in the penalty area. And Mo Salah's tapping it into an empty net and we're all going absolutely insane in the stadium at 3-2, 10 men. So you don't want to sort of get on them too much. But it is fair to say when you look at some of that, and even like the XG, the way it went up, there probably will be a part of them that will think, should have had 3 points actually there.
Yeah, I think some of the players will go away and will think, they will feel they should have scored. I mean, Mo was through. I've got it here, 65 minutes. Mo had it's a low XG chance, but he puts it wide of the post. And you think, we've seen Mo on another day just slot that home, and that's it. But that, for me, that one, and again, I'm not. This is not a pick on that particular player, but Diaz takes a shot off, and to be fair, it's a 0.24 chance Diaz has a shot in 93 minutes. It's not a bad opportunity to have shot, but it's got 2 players in the way. Whereas Mo is literally stood to his right, unmarked. all he's got to do is roll the ball there, and Mo would score that. So it's sort of.
Yeah.
It's one of them. We've seen it before. I mean, there was a few games end of last season where we weren't quite making those decisions right, and some of that is down to some of it when you get fatigued, it does affect your neuromuscular decisions, which is your decision making. So some of that, it's in the 90th minute. They've played a full game with a man down, having to put that extra work rate in. That is going to have an impact on what you do. I mean, if you look at some of the areas, if I can just find it, the areas some of our boys covered, they are huge zones.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Jones's zone there is over nearly 9 boxes worth of the pitch. Now, some of that will be due to positional tweaks, but that's still a lot of ground for him to be making up to cover. And Dom is again over 9 boxes. I mean, it's no surprise sometimes when you get to that final moment.
Yeah.
They're a bit frantic. It's like, I've got a chance to win it here, and they don't just quite make what we would say, armchair Saturday game. Well, the better move was there, So, but yeah,
Right.
it is what it is sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, those areas is enormous. As Avo Third says there, probably fair. The second goal must have been deflating for the players, but we didn't give up. We kept the faith in the manager and what he's putting in training. And I thought that the players came out with so much credit, as did the manager for the tactical tweaks, the adjustments he made. Now, I'm intrigued where we're going to go from this because we mentioned a few. Covered a ginormous area. Zabozlai practically ran himself into the ground till he had literally nothing left. He emptied the tank. The official man of the match was Ryan Gray, who almost was immense in kind of a sweeper, central midfielder, everywhere role. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Who were you calling out, or what did the stats tell us that, really shone that day?
Let's be fair. Let's start with if I can get out my thing. If I go to look, that's Ryan's profile, right? So black dot is the average for that position. He played 2 positions on the day, so he gets double bubble, but he exceeds all of them apart from shots, which, to be fair, he plays centre half. He's not going to have a lot of shots.
Yeah.
I think Virgil got the average for that because he had 1 attempt again in that 93rd minute goes down. But everything else, apart from EPV creation, which still he does pretty damn well, to be fair, he's out to the second edge of the circles here. He exceeds from, considering he started playing as a 6, got shifted one side, shifted another side, and then was asked to basically play centre half, but equally try and bring it out if you can as well. It was, it's very hard to look past Gravenberg not having a man in a match. I genuinely thought he went to levels that I didn't think he had the ability to do. When he's tracking a runner and then blocking the cross or doing, those are just elements that beginning of the season, he didn't have the defensive nous to do. They were still problems we were having in the 6 area because he didn't know what really that kind of side of the game was. So for him to do that, and as the last line of defence, I thought was pretty astronomical. I mean, to pick out a few others that played well, Dom here, he's exceeded a lot of the metrics, or he's bang on for on-ball aerials and possession. It's a good game for Dom, don't get me wrong. I mean, Mo Salah, it's if you were looking at next level down, Mo's exceeded in terms of shots, not unsurprisingly. EPV creation, which is threat, he's exceeded where everybody else was, and he's actually exceeded the average for his position for duels. So there's a lot to be said for Mo's on board, if I'm being honest with you, but it's very hard to look past Gravenberg at that particular point. I did think, I think Avo is right. McAllister was a massive loss in trying to particularly just help to settle at times. We just needed to keep the ball and just kind of keep things ticking over. Matt can be that metronome for us at times. That's not to say, though, the flip side to that is when you're a man down, everybody else has to pick the workload up, and Mac might not have been able to do that. So that's where CJ and Dom were brilliant at that, because they can literally just go right. You take half a man's minutes, meters, I'll do the other half, and we'll work it out together. And and you can see the areas they kind of did do that. So yeah, I think for me, it's not a big shock that Gravenberg did get man of the match. The only other one I did was I pulled out Anthony, I guess how you say it, Robertson for Fulham.
Yeah.
I thought he had an interesting game. He had Mo Salah, but then Mo Salah started to destroy him, I thought, second half.
Yeah.
With first half, it was kind of an even contest. So if you look at his maps here, he's actually positionally outperforms in terms of duels, in terms of possession and EPV for a left back, which is pretty decent, to be fair, for a mid to low level, mid table side this kind. But his passes is below where his position should be. So yeah, I thought just to pick out an opposition player, people often look at left backs at the moment, and I thought he put in an interesting performance. But in the end, Mo Salah did get the better of him in the second half. But then there's not many players that Mo doesn't eventually do that to going forward, you know?
Yeah, no, and it's an interesting one because he's a left back that's been linked with us, and a few fans have said, could he be one just as a solid operator? I think that's fair though, Bart, that he had a few with dribbling the first time, and even the second half, for Gakpo, it's Mo makes the goal, doesn't he, really? And he did have him on toast late on. There's no two ways about it. But at the same time, you are playing against an elite right winger, the best in the world. So you'll give him that fence. I suppose, I mean, there's so much to digest. It was brilliant to sort of go into depth. Is the biggest takeaway, and I definitely don't want to finish Fulham on a negative because everyone's going to go, actually, should we have got 2 points more? And you can look at that, but is the biggest takeaway that there were 1,000,001 positives, and actually, if we have 11 men, we win that game, zero doubt?
Yeah, I think that's probably, considering we were going into the game thinking, oh, this could be a tricky one. Actually, now seeing that play out, I'm convinced, and the Monte Carlos will say that as well. I just think if we had 11 players, we'd have won that. We'd just win that game. We should have won it with 10. I just don't see a reason why we don't win that with 11 players. I really don't. Which is good. Is really, and the other positive, and I think the guys in the comments have said as well, is Slot really showed in that game that he is levels above many of his counterparts, in the league in terms of his tactical ability in game, in segment. Not even, right, boys, let's just sort it out at half time. Just get in, just try and hold it at 1-0. He literally was problem solving on the fly, not happy with something, tweaking it, not happy with something, tweaking it. And then he got a system that worked beautifully for 60 minutes, apart from seeing a rubbish goal. But yeah, I just thought there's so many positives to take out of that performance. I really hope they do now kick on, and with players coming back, and really seize that impetus to take on board even more, buy into the tactical and information that Slot's been giving him in training. Now he really has proven that he is the real deal, and the players will be like, okay, yeah, I trust him even more now, you know?
I was going to ask you about it because I remember at the start of the season when we were talking about Slot coming in, the tournaments, the impact. I remember we had that, and then it made sense what you were saying, that you've got to give this guy time because a lot of his players are at the Euros, Copa America.
Yeah.
So what they probably struggle with at the start is patterns of play, that repetition, getting his message. And I remember I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And you and the Up Boys were quite definite on it that we might just be relying on individual moments of brilliance in the Slot to get his message, and he might just take his time. Has the pleasant surprise to that for you been, even in that first game against Ipswich, he's straight away at half time going, I don't care, this isn't working, Kwanzaa off, Ibu on, and he will just change things in games, like almost without, in a strong, confident manner, without a second thought. Has his sort of tactical nous, but his confidence and his belief just to change it straight away, has that been a positive surprise for you and the Up Boys as well?
100%. I think shout out to Patrick in Distor group. He long spoke about how Slot was brilliant tactically and would do changes. And I think some of us, myself included, were like, yeah, but it's Premier League, could be slightly different. But I have been massively impressed with his ability to just go, right, you need to change now, here and then. You need to seize that moment. He can see it. And I think for large parts of previous seasons, and please don't take this as a criticism of previous management, is that we were often slow to react to tactical changes, or we just frankly lost the tactical battle, and we win it because individuals were brilliant or whatever else. Whereas Slotty's just not happy with that. He literally, like, he's still obsessed with Forest. He's still obsessed with the game he lost in match day or whatever it was, 5, whatever else, and he still can't get out of it that guy beat him in terms of tactics. So that I love that, because he's just basically going into every game going, right, I'm not happy with this. I want to know A, B, C, D. I want to have these solutions, and if that isn't working, I'm going to change it. Flip side, you need to have a good team around you to make sure the player that is the one that gets pulled out is also reassured that it's A, B, C, D, and we will start to see that coming forward, how well they've looked after Kwanzaa or not, going forward at Endo. But yeah, no, I have been hugely impressed with the way his ability to just come up with. I mean, who would have thought 3-3-3 would have worked in a Premier League game? It's like, okay, and he makes it work. So yeah, I'm really really impressed with him, to be fair.
Yeah, there is so much. And you've got yourself a fan there, Barts, as well, as Liverpool 12th man says. My red, it's Phil telling Red, you are legit source for the breakdown on numbers. Damo was saying there in an interview, he said he wasn't the fastest player, so he must have to outthink his opponent on the pitch. Maybe that sort of goes into his psyche because he is such a thinker. And you're right, even Nottingham Forest, even today when we did post-conference presser at about 11 o'clock, he mentioned Nottingham Forest again in his press conference today ahead of Spurs. So you can see maybe in a healthy manner for us, he has that obsessional nature where it doesn't go his way. He is a brilliant thinker. There's no two ways about it. So there we go. A lot to like about the Fulham game. Maybe not the result, but a lot to like in terms of the performance and the tactical side, which, but I suppose this brings us to this game at the weekend, Spurs. Now, in terms of stats, you know, people out there, the quick retail ones, and pretend I'm even remotely qualified on Bart's level, but we've had an extra day's rest than them, which is, I think, is a positive, isn't it, Bart's, that they played last night. 100%. It was quite an enthralling cup tie as well against United. That's all I really wanted, that them to be really busy and go into the end, and, you know, strongest team, which we got. I just side when you look at Spurs. Again, feels a bit like Fulham, this, doesn't it? We're talking mid-table. But the one thing, Barts, as you know, I mean, you look at Spurs, we lose. There's very little draws. It's, you know, it's dramatic in that regard. Look at, I mean, 36 goals in mid-table, 90 conceded. There's goals at Spurs games. It is the classic, are you not entertained? And then they're capable of anything. They can batter, which maybe doesn't sound as great as it once did, but they batter City away. They can lose to Ipswich at home. They can draw there against Fulham. And then even that one to a 3-4 against Chelsea. They are just capable of anything. And we talk about goals, Bart. We talk about their threat. I'm intrigued to see like what the XG and certain things breaks down. Kulusevski on 4. Maddison's on 7. Son probably got a bit stat padded with the Southampton where they hammered them, and that was almost a freebie a little bit, but he's got 5. Johnson's got 6. So there's definite goals in the team. The only other thing is we look and think this weekend is going to be Archie Gray, who's a midfielder at centre-back, and they're missing the 2 strongest ones in Romero and Van, and the keeper's out as well, isn't he, Vicario? So it'll be Fraser Foster, who we know is horrendous with his feet. We saw that the other night, and Dragusin in that way as well. So I am intrigued to see. The retail stats are fascinating. I want to see what you've turned up with this, because goals either end is Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, I will try and this is all competition, and the reason I will take this out is because they're very different in between this. Like United last night, for example, they created 0.6 xg and conceded 2.56 xg. Right, I won the game 4-3. Right, that's a bit weird. If you look at Rangers, which is another non-league game, they created just one and conceded 1.3. So they, in between the leagues, it's a bit odd that what they do. I think that's probably due to the way they're rotating. If you look at the league only, the last two they've created over 2xg, and they've been nearly bang on 1xg. They've conceded, though, it varies. I mean, you look at the Bournemouth game, they got beat. They conceded nearly 3.5 xg. Chelsea, I know it was 2 penalties. You kind of have to take that into account, but that's an amount. 0.8 in the last game against Southampton. If you look at City, although we talk about they won 4-0, they still conceded 2.1 xg against City. So it's a bit of a roller coaster. If we go to one of my favourites, which is Understat, for those who are interested, as their overall stat line, so they've basically scored 36 goals and conceded 19. And if you look at the overall picture, they should have conceded or should have scored 35 goals. So they're pretty much bang on attack, right? They're bang on where they should be. They should have conceded 25 goals. So they are 6 goals under in 16 games. That's a remarkable amount of XG to be under. So that's saying you are overperforming your defensive stats by a goal every 3, 1 in 3 games. So that's a lot of I would be hesitant to suggest that they are solid at the back. I would say they're inconsistent. And again, if you look at the retail stats, that is generally what it's saying. They'll go from below 1 to over 2, 3, 1, 2. It's very inconsistent. There's not a lot of consistency. Early season, to give them credit, because I've got a few mates who are Tottenham fans, but when they had their first choice players, they're in 1-1 point. There are a lot of around the 1 XG considered. But since they started having issues with injuries at the back, they have largely crept out to about 1.5, if not 2. So, yeah, I would suggest 1.5 to 2 XG would be something that they probably will concede. But attacking wise, they're bang on. They are 35 goals is legit. So that's 2 a game. So I would suggest the XG, they're probably going to create around 2 XG for the game. It's about how we limit their threat into XG, and then also how we prevent that XG being dangerous XG. So it could be they can create an XG from an area, as long as it's not in our box, it's not a problem. They can have a peripheral shots, low XG. So it's about where we allow them to have their XG and create from will be the key for me. We're away from home. So I've got that right, haven't I? Yeah, we are. Yeah, we are away from home. So we sometimes have a slightly different approach. Costas is back. He has generally played in a few of our Palace away was a good away result for us. So there's been some results where he's played with Gapco, which could be a triangle that comes returns, could not. So yeah, I think it'd be really interesting to see what Slot does. But fundamentally for me, it'd be about, okay, they're going to create 2 XG. Cool. It's about where we let them create that, whether we prevent them from imposing on us too much. If we can go and create 2 XG against them, which seems to be what they're gearing out towards, I would, a bit like Fulham, I would back us to score the 2 goals. So I think we can do that. And if we've got players coming back, if Costas is back, I mean, Gomez did 45 in a week, didn't he? So is Trent. So I would suggest they're likely to be somewhere around the back 4. Robbo might come in, I'm not sure. But so yeah, the BVD's had a rest, Addison's had a rest, Grab had a rest, Max available for this one, isn't he? I think, is that right? Yeah. So Dom had a rest. You've actually your first choice midfield 3 have all had a rest. Yeah, you could see us, if we can just prevent them from dictating where they create the threat and therefore the XG, I think we could be on the right side of the result. But if not, then they can score goals. They definitely can score goals if you let them impose themselves for too long.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. I was thinking, as almost you were saying this, Liverpool 12th man had a question there, like, how many goals do you see us scoring and how many goals do you see in total for both teams? I know Liverpool's 12th man's put, I'd like to see a clean sheet. I mean, the data's telling me this game's got anything but a clean sheet written all over it, to be honest, isn't it? There's probably the neutral should most likely be how well we control their XG.
Yeah, I'd love a clean sheet as well, to be honest with you. I really would love to get back to doing that. I'm not. I think people underestimate how much we miss Konate. Or maybe not. Maybe people realise how much we were going to miss Konate, but and that's not a slant on Gomez. Is a perfectly fine centre half. It's just Konate's ability to help us control that space is like another level to Joe. Joe is very good at a lot of things that Konate isn't good at, but what Konate is exceptional at is controlling that space you operate in, and it's a big space that he operates in. So that'll be one of the keys to us, is how we can, that right side, can we control that space in there to stop Spurs from dictating in that area? Left side, I think BBD, if he's on his game, can work with the left back, and it'll be, if it's Mac as well, that'll generally work well that side. So yeah, I think we'll be okay. Our tactics this season, just to answer a shot from outside the box, hasn't been to shoot from outside the box. We've generally reduced that by nearly 2/3 from last season. So it's not something that I would generally think we're going to go back to doing just because the keeper's poor, because we would rather create a better opportunity in the box to test that poor keeper than having outside the box where he's got longer to see it. So yeah, I don't think we'll see a return to shooting from outside the box, because it's just not a slot tactic. It isn't like it.
I was thinking that actually, and because I got that, but if you watch the other night, Fraser Foster, strangely, he actually makes two very good saves in the game, really good saves, both at fingertip. The one thing that we clearly saw, the guy can't use his feet. Let's be honest, two of the three goals come from him not being able to use his feet or pass and doing the way. So I suppose with that in mind, I wouldn't be very surprised if Dominic Szoboszlai plays and is tasked very much with pressing like Jota, probably press high, get right in, Forster's fake, try and force the mistake and go from there. So we will see. Wow. Well, there we go, ladies and gents. A lot to like about Fulham. The result wasn't what we wanted, but there we go. We move on. We take the positives. This game this weekend, I suppose the only thing to finish about this, Bart, because we said, the neutrals expecting goals in this one. It's not to be too dramatic at this stage. And Arne Slot even said in his press conference today, he looks at the table after 19 games, because then you've played everyone, you see where you are. But like you said, it does just have the feel in the last few games we've more maybe lost points we didn't need to, or just in different circumstances we could have taken maximum. You're really looking for us to get back on that trail and really take maximum 3 points again, aren't we, from this one?
Yeah, I 19 points is the marker, because I think from their point you can definitely start to forecast effectively. A lot of the expected points models change considerably after 19 games have been played. So yeah, I think, and also we're currently still on for a 91-point season.
Yeah.
But we have to return to getting 3 points fairly shortly, otherwise you start coming off that. And you equally, as much as many people will look at it and we've got a game in hand and we've got Chelsea, but Chelsea defensive stats are not mind-blowing, but they've still cut the gap to 2 points. Points on the board is sometimes what matters, so they're still, and they've got an easy run of games. They've still got another 4 fixtures coming up, which are fairly simple to do. So I think it's just to keep things level-headed, and the rest of it, I think we just need to get back to doing what we do best, which ideally would be a clean sheet and a win. So Ian Graham that is one of the reasons that he spoke about. Ibu's ability to cover the space wasn't necessarily to free Trent up at that time. It was more the fact that all of us at halves were asked to defend high and big space behind, because Klopp's sides generally compress the pitch to allow us to press more effectively. The latter parts of Klopp's tenure, when Ian Graham was no longer at the club, we started playing with Trent inverting. So I think Konate, that's one of the elements that definitely Konate was bought for.
Yeah, no two ways about it. There we are, ladies and gents. We are at the top of the hour. Thanks to all for commenting. As Liverpool 12th man says, big thanks to Doc B. I might start using that going forward, but street cred for you that way as well in terms of analysis. I don't think you'll let me get away with that one, people, but we'll see. But all it leaves me to say as ever is I really enjoyed that one. So for the time, the insight, the stats, and the analysis, Bart, it is massively appreciated.
No worries.
And ladies and gents, that was another Stat Me Up for Anfield Index.